What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So in this video, this is going to be our daily fun. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to kind of just play around in this idea that's been kind of floating for a few months now, on and off, and that is about Donald Trump's health. And the question behind not like physical health and also like mental health. And I'm not going to be, I'm not going to really take this too crazily seriously or anything, but, when we look at what Donald Trump, over the years, through like his, speeches and stuff, in the election year and whatnot, at all his rallies and stuff, to what things he has said, even throughout these past 7-8 months, and paying attention to which a lot of people have been paying attention to his mobility, and studying his speech. Things he said, how he's saying it, gaffes and stuff that he has had. And there's a lot of speculation. And I'm not trying to say that, oh yeah, he's fucked up. And we should be worried. But in the same way that I stated before with Biden, it was something that we could see happening in real time, from the first year or so of his presidency, where there were questions, like there seems to be some signs of some slowing here. He still had some, kind of normalcy to him, but at the same time you could see some slowing. But clearly by the last 2 years, especially the last year of his presidency, you could definitely see the decline happening. And I was not in any way trying to defend it or trying to hide it or apologize for it or anything. It was clear it was being protected, which you can't expect. If you were thinking that some way, form, or fact, like the people behind the administration or in the administration are going to come out and be like, whenever they have the cognitive tests and physical tests and all the things like that, they're going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, our president, the leader of the free world here, yeah, he's not mentally all there. Just the tests are showing that he's losing it. Or that he's very likely to have a heart attack here in the next couple of months. They're not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. And so clearly they're going to be like, oh yes, he's A-okay, perfect, he's ready to go. He has some, that's just some verbal things. He's, those gaffes, that's something that he's always done. And while there could be history of some here and there, when you start to see what shows sign is frequency of things that are concerning, and they're happening more and more frequently. And that was a clear sign with Biden. There was no doubt that he was slowing. And still, to this day, he is still slowing. That doesn't mean that, he necessarily was not making decisions as president. I'm sure that he was capable of making some of the decisions, although I'm sure at times that he wasn't. And that is a concern. And that is done. It's over with. We got through it. Would it have been great to... Would I prefer them come forward and be like, yeah, there's some problem here, and for the safety of the citizens of the United States and decisions being made, we find it, that there needs to be, he needs to step down or something. Would I rather that? Yes, I kind of would rather that to some degree. But I guess because we weren't, I guess it's a heavy thing there, because it's like, I don't feel that we were having any, well, there were things that needed to be done, but I don't think that having him no longer be president was going to change any of that. I don't think, Kamala taking over was going to help or bring about any kind of like improvement to, I don't know, our health care, or improvement to our educational system, or improvement to, the immigration issue, or even the fucking war. There was not necessarily the conflict with Israel. That's the only one that I could say that she might have made some different decisions on, although I'm not sure that they would have been different enough to make a difference. But either way, okay. Same thing goes for Trump. Even though we are seeing, and there has been cases where we've seen him physically, that we've already had the report come out about his Venous was it a blood flow issue, and that's something that comes with potentially, just because of age. And that's not necessarily, it's something to be concerned about for his physical mobility, especially over time. And it could potentially marks concerns for, like, from my understanding, heart issues, potentially. But not necessarily. I think so his mobility is a concern, and we've seen him have his trips and stuff, just like we saw Biden had his trips. He also has a lot of, but this is something Trump has had for a while now, a lot of misstatements or mispronunciations of words and things. He can't seem to quite get his words together. Even when reading them, he doesn't, whether or not it's because he doesn't necessarily even, maybe he's never even pronounced that word before, or he just has a issue with pronouncing words, period. That's possible. He does have a very particular way of speaking that seems very, I don't know, stressing. To watch him speak is almost fatigue in itself. But none of that necessarily equates to any kind of mental issue. Although when you start to combine things together, you can bring up the question. And there have been a lot of people that questioned dementia in like early stages. There have been instances where he mentions a name, and it's or a partial name or something, and it happens to be somebody from the like 80s or 90s that he is claiming he just spoke to or just saw or something or whatever, had a meeting with or whatever. It could just be a confusion of names. That's not necessarily anything to do with a mental issue. Just, typical old age and confusing names. Or it could also mean that there's a cognitive problem. And until you are able to see like a patterned thing happening, which is what's being like probably daily analyzed, to put together something where we can start to be like, there's certainly some issues, and that's what people are doing. Now is the White House, like I said, going to come out and be like, well, I mean, yeah, he did have some issues here and there in his cognitive test and blah, 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 blah. No, of course they're going to come out with their 30 out of 30. He's the best. He's perfect. He doesn't miss a step. He knows everything. He was right about everything, as his hats recently he was wearing. Of course they want him to be top notch and want him to be the big, strong man that he likes to be perceived as being, with no problems. Although he's hiding his hand, and that's the whole hand thing, for me, is not that big of a deal. I mean, old people banging themselves up, easy to bruise. It's not really that complicated. It could have been something simple. He could have swung his hand trying to talk and hit a fucking wall, as far as I know. I don't know. Does it show imperfection in him and he is concerned with imperfection? True. It's probably the reason why he's hiding it or trying to hide it. But that doesn't mean anything. I think it's overblown. And there are easily instances where things are overblown. There were instances where things were overblown with Biden. Even though, yes, he was clearly showing signs, there were some things that were blown up out of proportion that had nothing to do with anything. And I feel that this is the same kind of thing with Trump. But it is always something at somebody at the age of Trump, just like somebody at the age of Biden was. You have to start to be concerned with health. And that's something that was argued even before he took office. So, I feel like these are the kind of things that are going to constantly be brought up. Some are going to be merited, some are probably not. Do I think there is signs potentially? Yeah, there are signs potentially that there's something going on. He repeats himself often. He also says things that are actually not true. He is very flamboyant or excessive in the things that he does say. That doesn't necessarily mean anything except for just the fact that that's just the way he is. He tends to overinflate everything. That could just be him and just what he does. Or it could mean that there's something going on there. But is it enough to mean that by the time that that he would fall in a similar path as Biden? No, not necessarily. We are just still within the first year. And unfortunately, we have 3 more years to go through. But this is something that I think will continuously, it will be a big thing throughout his whole entire presidency. And every decision that he makes is going to be scrutinized by health. It's just reality. And it's warranted. So it's actually just like everything else, pulling out and pinpointing what's most accurate, what's not, what's overblown, what's not, what truly is concerning, and what's not. There are a lot of things to be worried about in the health of any president. And Trump warrants a lot of concerns in his health, his weight, his eating habits, and just physically, a lot of things. That's always been an issue. But of course, you've always had the defense of people saying, oh, well, he's just, he goes golfing all the time. He does all this, he does all that. But we've even seen, there's even been some concerns, even with his golfing, that he's not quite, hitting the ball like he used to, or, which, that's all could just be age related. Anyways, my point is that it's just recognizing when things are being taken a little bit out of context and blown, but also being willing enough to question certain things, gaffes and stuff that he has verbally, just like with Biden. Some of the gaffes were certainly concerning, and then some of the gaffes were just silly stuff that could be explained by simple, just simple linguistic, flubs like that everybody has. And the same thing could go for Trump. And we could also be concerned about just aggressive or spontaneous actions or things being said by him, just random, which there again, he's always been sort of random in the way he speaks. So therefore it's kind of hard to distinguish whether or not this is a random thing that's normal or a random thing that should be concerning. I think diagnosing or trying to prove that Trump is in a dimension like mental decline is going to be hard without some serious continuous evidence of him having complete memory issues or answering things in a way that make no sense to the question or whatever. Do I think he's imperfect? Do I think that he's in the condition that the White House would like you to, or want you to think? No, by no means. He certainly is his age, and he's certainly showing signs of, if anything, a simple grumpy old man. But it's certainly there. You have to continue to look at things, pay attention to them, and acknowledge when it's time to acknowledge that there might be something going on. So, like I said, I was just trying to have a little fun with this. Trying to be there's a lot of things going around, a lot of things being said. But as of right now, there's not really any hardcore evidence. Do I personally think there's concern to be had, and there potentially is an early signs? Yes, I do think there are some early signs. Do I think it's advanced as some people are making it? No. Could it possibly at some point before his last year, or by the time of his last year, or by the time of the next election or whatever, could it be just like Biden? Yeah, very much so. It's possible. But I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of people in the background that are doing everything that they can to keep him cognitively going and functioning at the best that they can, just like they tried with Biden as much as they could when they could, having him on all kinds of probably medication uppers and everything else to keep his mind, when they needed it to be going, they will more than likely do the same for Trump. So my question and wonder is, as much as it was thrown out about Biden that it should have been, that they were hiding stuff and they shouldn't have been hiding stuff, and that, you're putting the country at risk with a president that's, mentally losing it, that if those same people that made that argument before with Biden are going to be okay enough to make that argument with Trump. Because as we know, everything that we can argue for one other person in history, most of the time argued recently for Biden, because it's the most recent history, Trump just completely gets away with. Even when he does the same thing. So, anyways, that was our little fun. Let me know what you think. Do you think that there is some cognitive issues, psychomotor or some type of motor issues, concerns? Are we going to see it continue, or is this just all blown out of proportion and he's perfectly fine and he'll be good for another 10, 15 years, trucking along on the golf course? Who knows? Let me know what you think. And until next time, peace, clear talk with love. I'm out.